guys. Like you said, I am Emmeline Sawyers. I did write out my speech so I didn't forget anything. So sorry. I am so excited to be here with you guys today, and I will take any and all questions at the end. I love answering questions, so please do not hold back. I am a pageant queen, a competitor, a college graduate, and a daughter of the one true king. But today, I am just here to talk to you guys as Emmeline. I want to start by saying how proud I am of each and every single one of you. You have spent months, maybe years, preparing for this weekend. The gowns, the interviews, the service work, the talent practices, the endless hours in heels, and it all leads to this weekend. And whether you take home a crown this weekend or not, you have already proven something far greater, that you have the courage to put yourself out there, to take a risk, and to do something that some people can only dream of. And I know how it feels to sit where you are, to wait for your name to be called, to wonder if all of your hard work was enough. And I also know what it feels like when it isn't. When you smile through the sting of disappointment and just tell yourself to try again. My story isn't one of instant success. It's one of coming so close that you can feel the crown's weight, but then walking off stage empty-handed. But what I learned is that sometimes the moments that hurt the most are the ones that prepare us to shine the brightest. I started competing in pageants when I was 18 years old, a lot older than most of my fellow competitors. Many of them had been doing this for years before I had ever stepped on a stage. My first pageant wasn't huge. It was 5 girls in my division at a moose lodge up in Elkton, actually with Kirk and Sam. They're part of my origin story. I'll do a shout out. And I had no fancy dress. My dress was from Goodwill that I bedazzled myself. I had no experience and absolutely no idea what I was doing. But somehow I walked away as first runner-up there. And for my first time competing, that was incredible. I remember holding the trophy and thinking, okay, maybe I can do this. From there, I entered a few more local pageants and even took home a couple of crowns. And after about a year, I decided to try something else. Miss Augusta County Fair. Again, another Kirk and Sam pageant. It was my first scholarship competition, my first real interview, and I was terrified. I practiced in the car on my way there, my palms sweating and my voice shaking, but to my surprise, I won. And that win opened a world of opportunities. I got to make appearances, meet people in the community, and for the first time, I felt like maybe this wasn't just a hobby, that it was something that I could truly grow in. After that, I entered another local pageant and lost, badly. But there I met the director who introduced me to my next big step, the Miss Virginia America system. And I won my first local title, Miss Fall Year, and that meant that I would be competing at Miss Virginia the following summer. Now, here's where my overconfidence kicked in. I was 19, the youngest contestant, surrounded by girls who've been competing for probably a decade. But I just walked in thinking that I was gonna win. No other reason than that I just thought that I would. Surprise, I didn't even make the top 10, and it stung. I didn't understand how much preparation it really took to compete at that level. I wasn't ready, and deep down, I think that I knew it. After that, I entered 3 more local pageants in the Miss Virginia America system, and I lost every single one. And by that last one, I started wondering if maybe my first big win had just been a fluke. That's when I decided to try something new, Miss Virginia Volunteer, and this time I prepared differently. I didn't just practice my walk and my interview, I lived the job before I had it. I booked school visits, spoke to over 1,100 elementary schoolers, met with local organizations, and poured myself into my platform, Girls Like Me. I spent every free hour practicing, showing up for community events, and perfecting the details that no one else would notice. And when competition week arrived, I was exhausted, but I was ready. And it paid off. I was named second runner-up. Not a win, but it felt like progress. After that, I competed at Miss Virginia again, this time as Miss Roanoke Valley. And I worked harder than ever. And that week, everything just felt right. I walked in calm, confident, and ready. But when finals night came, I was named first runner-up out of 33 contestants. And I smiled for the photos, but it hurt. It felt like coming in last. Still, 2 months later, I gave it one more shot, Miss Virginia Volunteer again. And once again, first runner-up, twice in one summer. And that was this past summer. Now, I know first runner-up sounds great, and it is, but it also means that you were so close. You were close enough to feel it, to imagine yourself wearing the crown, and yet you still walk away without it. Twice. That is a special kind of heartbreak. And the funny thing about disappointment is that it's not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It's the smiling for photos and then the silence of your dressing room afterwards. The first time it happened, I told myself, it's okay. God's just saving me for something better. But then it happened again. And this time there wasn't a next one. This was the end of that particular chapter. And in that moment, I didn't feel resilient. I didn't feel proud. I felt tired. Tired of coming so close, tired of explaining why second place can still hurt, and tired of smiling through something that's dumb. But here's what I learned. Disappointment isn't failure. It is proof that you cared. You don't hurt over something that didn't matter to you, and caring deeply, even when it breaks your heart, is one of the bravest things that you can do. For me, resilience didn't look like bouncing back overnight. It looked like sitting with the disappointment, crying if I needed to, which I did, a lot, and then slowly showing up again. It looked like writing the speech and saying yes to opportunities that had nothing to do with pageantry and everything to do with growing as a person. Resilience isn't glamorous. It is steady, quiet work that no one sees. It is trusting that just because something didn't happen yet doesn't mean it never will. After the summer, I started asking the deeper questions about who I was outside of the crown and sash and the stage lights that had consumed my life for the last 4 years. That's when I began to understand that resilience has always been a part of my story. Growing up, I felt like I was playing a game without ever being given the rule book. I couldn't understand why social cues came so easily to others but not to me. I was bullied, pushed, mocked, isolated, and eventually led to a trauma-induced stutter that lasted 4 years. I spent most of my life believing that something was wrong with me. I was too much or not enough, too loud, too quiet, too sensitive, too odd. And it wasn't until adulthood that I was diagnosed with autism. And that moment changed everything. Suddenly, the things that I thought were flaws, my attention to detail, my empathy, my sense of justice, were actually strengths. It was like finally finding the missing page to that rule book. That diagnosis didn't define me, it freed me. It gave me permission to stop apologizing for who I was. And that's when I realized resilience isn't about becoming someone else to fit in. It is about learning to show up as yourself, even when it's hard. And that's why I share my autism story on stage to teach the young girl sitting in the audience who feels different and doesn't know why. To tell her that she's not broken, she's just wired beautifully, uniquely, and purposefully. When I stood on stage at Miss Virginia, right before the winner's name was called, I could feel the lights beating down, much like they are now. My heart was pounding, and I was just standing there thinking, maybe it could be me. And in that suspended moment where just everything goes still, I prayed. Not that I would win, because I had a feeling that I wasn't going to, but I prayed that she would love people well and would make a difference. And that prayer changed me, because it reminded me that the crown is not the only prize. I walked away that night without a title, but with something far better, peace. Because now I know that winning isn't always about the placement. Sometimes it's about the growth, the grace, and the grit that you build along the way. Winning matters, but it isn't everything. Your legacy won't be written in crowns or scores. It'll be written in how you carry yourself, how you treat people, and how you rise when things don't go your way. When I look back now, I see that God was never withholding something from me. He was preparing me for something. Sometimes the doors that close are the ones that eventually lead you to where you are meant to go. So, as you step onto your own stages, whatever they may look like, remember this. Titles fade, but being the kind of person that you want to be, that lasts forever. And I think that's something that God was teaching me through every season of the almosts. Every first runner-up, every time that I thought that my story was over, He was reminding me that the crown was never meant to define me, it was meant to refine me. And every single one of you has something like that in your life. A dream that feels just out of reach, a door that hasn't opened yet, or a plan in your life that doesn't quite make sense yet. And maybe it feels like you're standing in that season of waiting. Maybe you're walking through a not yet moment, but what if the season isn't a punishment? What if it's preparation? Because the truth is, the people who change the world are rarely the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who had to learn how to get back up, the ones who didn't let a single no stop them from chasing the purpose that they were made for. So next time you face disappointment, whether it's a missed title, a goal that doesn't go as planned, or just a hard day where nothing seems to go right, remember this. Resilience doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it is a deep breath, a whispered prayer, and the decision to show up anyway. If there's one thing that I've learned through all of this, it's that you don't need a crown to have influence. You don't need a title to have purpose. You don't need to win to make an impact. But you have to keep showing up. Faithfully, consistently, with a heart that is willing to serve wherever you are while you wait for what's next. And maybe one day you'll look back and you'll realize that the thing that you thought was a loss was really just a turning point. The moment where God started rewriting your story into something that was much better than you ever could have imagined. So go after your dreams. Work hard, prepare, chase excellence, but never forget that your worth isn't waiting at the finish line. It is already in you. You have nothing to prove, only purpose to live out. Thank you.
One more time, let's Emmeline Sawyer. If you would be around for a little bit, actually.